can pull off a little bit of an upset. The man he has to do it against is the red Protoss. In the top left-hand side, a Death Aura, PtitDrogo.
And down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Protoss player. It is Team Exxon's Gerald. Okay. Yeah. So, do you know much about Drogo's team, Raise Your Edge?
Yeah, really cool team, actually. A team that's founded by a couple of poker guys, hence the team name. And obviously picked up a bit of a stacked lineup. You know, you started with Blythe, and they got Drogo, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we're just going to pick up Zest. Zest then goes on to go second place in Katowice. It's kind of cool because there's not a lot of Koreans really joining Western teams nowadays because of the team championships out in China and stuff, and there's a lot of actual competition for teams there picking up players. Obviously, Zest was is kind of getting towards the point of going to the military, so he wasn't really able to travel much this year. So he kind of went for a Western team instead of one of those teams that are competing in those team championships, which were meant to, at the time, have offline finals.
Yeah, really cool to see those kind of teams like popping on up and getting some really, really solid pickups. And Drogo, I mean, definitely getting some good value, I would say, from him so far in the group. But we'll see how things go in this one. We already see the typical PvP proxy pylon. The probe is sticking around, so it likely is going to be an actual proxy, not just the I am hiding a pylon. There's nothing actually being hidden, though.
Yeah, both of them look like they're going to proxy, right? This definitely looks like a bit of a Stargate proxy from Gerald being on this side of the rocks. So that's going to be a Stargate. Drogo could absolutely maybe make something a bit different. A gateway, yeah. I was going to say like a robo or a gateway, something that you can warp in from or walk units from, right? So you can warp in units there, or you can, if you build a robo there, a mortal can walk from there forward. I kind of like it. Obviously, this gets very weird very quickly, because you don't have as much defensively as you might like from Gerald, but Drogo is unlikely to be prepared to deal with an Oracle.
Yeah, that's very true. And we'll see whether or not Drogo decides to play it safe. If he is going to, well, we do have the scouting probe, as of course this is the matchup of proxies. But I was going to say, Drogo could decide to try and play it safe and either leave the stalkers at home or heck, even just get up a shield battery in the mineral line or somewhere in his base to try and protect himself for a little bit as he decides to get aggressive. And there is going to be a shield battery starting on up there for Drogo. In the mineral line, he is anticipating that there is a proxy, obviously from seeing a lack of things, and he doesn't know what, but he's just going to say, yeah, I'll get the shield battery in the mineral line for the Oracle.
Gerald's going to show up, though. He's going to find the gateway and get that pylon damage on, so he's going to start shutting down this pylon. If he shuts that down, that's massive, because then you don't have that warping point across the map. And then Drogo's aggression really falters, and that gives Gerald a chance to get a second Oracle up, get a Robo up, because that's the decision you've got to make, right, as he's going to recall here, and that's beautifully done. He's going to save the Stalkers. Nicely done. I was going to say, yes, the shield battery is up, right, but the big issue is, you know, then Drogo could go across and deal damage, but now Drogo is not going to really take any damage here, but he can't really keep the aggression up either, so it gives Gerald that opportunity to respond to this. Otherwise, he might have usually been in trouble. Honestly, even 5 Stalkers right now are a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to note that that Nexus does not actually have the energy just yet to do any kind of shield battery overcharge or anything. And I also want to note how much more PtitDrogo chrono boosted Warp Gate is. Warp Gate's actually been done for a solid 20 or so seconds, and only now is Gerald's actually finishing up, and that's still going to take a few seconds for them to morph in and then warp in. So I do think there's a huge opportunity here for Drogo to at least do a contain, if not try and make something a little more happen. It looks like for now he is just going to settle for a contain and try and take an expansion on the other side of the map.
Yeah, the expansion is the real giveaway, right? That's the real, yeah, I'm going to sit here and just sort of keep you locked in. So Gerald will embrace that. Obviously, you have the Robo coming up, and you'll get the Prism on the way. Obviously, definitely a possibility of going across the map, because there isn't any real tech on the map from Drogo. It was just gateways early. So he doesn't have anything to help shut down a Prism. He doesn't have anything to help fight an Immortal. And that's going to be his problem here. He's getting a Twilight Council now, but a long time until Blink or anything kicks in from that. You know, a long time until he could get a Dark Shrine up or anything. Not that I think that's going to be his route. I think it should just be Blink. So yeah, I feel like the initial Prism push across the map from Gerald could be scary if he feels confident enough to go for it. And that's going to be, I guess that's the real question, right? Do you feel good enough to move across the map? against this army? Honestly, I feel like you should, right? You get all the information you need with the oracles to see, okay, it is an expansion for my opponent. I see what he's got at home. I just saw what he had at the front. I feel like that's enough info to justify, you know, this push across the map from Gerald being calculated rather than just, oh god, I gotta go try and do something.
I'm definitely with you on that. I do want to note really quickly that the Oracles tried to dive in and they got some decent scouting information, but they didn't actually see the Twilight Council. You can probably assume there's either Twilight or a Robo, I imagine, right now, but might not be 100% certain. He is going to realize once he pokes in at the front that there are no Immortals, and that should be a really good reveal, and the fact that he should feel really, really happy that there's not going to be some big hard-hitting units there, especially with no Blink finishing up just yet.
Oh, those are depths though. Again, a lot of eco damage done. He loses an Oracle at the same time. The shield battery will go down instantly though, so no battery overcharge, but he loses the prism, so already Gerald loses warp-in potential and a lot of micro potential on that Immortal as well. Not that it matters right now. The force field's working really well for Gerald and allowing him to keep fighting here, but there goes the Immortal, and again, that usually would have been saved if that prism was still alive.
Oh, the Oracle was also killing a bunch of these workers as well during the fight. It looks like another big warp-in over here comes in from Drogo. The Adepts are still getting more damage done. 15 workers killed. There are pros being pulled off the line now, so Gerald's going to get some equalizing damage, but Wardy, I say some in like the loosest term. It is a little. It is barely any in comparison.
The big thing is that those Adepts just did so much, right? If those Adepts on across the map killing 17 probes, then Gerald's up 9 workers. He's going to be able to maybe build another Immortal, and he's going to be able to do a lot of things. Now he's actually going to lose this pylon, and Drogo is about to have Blink, so he's going to be able to put on a lot of pressure here, and that is going to be big for him. Oh, I don't like this at all for Gerald, because now Drogo's going to have Blink, so this is going to be a Stalker fight he could potentially win. Blink wasn't done for the first Stalker going down, and maybe that's the issue here, but he will warp in more Stalkers. It's a little bit of a Stalker sandwich at the moment and a little bit chaotic. Eventually, this should be Drogo's advantage.
Oh, he's going to get flanked by another one of these Stalkers that does some chip damage. Takes out one of the Stalkers. Another Stalker getting taken out. Drogo is outnumbered here.
Yeah, gets 3 workers picked off, and that's actually going to halt his numbers right away, because if he doesn't lose all those Stalkers ineffectively, the advantage he has right now, even if he's 1 or 2 Stalkers behind, but he has Blink, that really makes up for it. As it stands, Drogo is not even convinced he can close this out. He starts his charge upgrade. He's ready for this to go on a little bit longer, basically. He's ready to go into the next stage, just in case these Blink Stalkers don't get the job done, which they probably won't. They trade out, but they're not going to be game-ending.
Yeah. Even though there are pretty big differences in their economy right now, it's also worth noting that both of these players are on more or less a little bit more than 1 base saturation, with Drogo being on close to 2 base saturation, but there's only 3 gateways out for both of them. So I actually think that their Stalker count should be more or less pretty close together. It is just going to be when Drogo starts getting up those transitions you were talking about, but a Death Shade into the natural and start getting a couple of probe kills while Drogo is busy trying to use his Stalkers. He blinks forward aggressively as well, so can't really blink back as far. But he is getting a lot of good pickoffs. He's still just got to clean up those Adepts a little faster, though.
Yeah, the Immortal's the big thing, right? Because the Immortal, as he gets the tag on it to get away the barrier, take away that defense. I mean, at the end of the day, is Drogo in trouble still, though? No. Right? He's got Charge about to come up. He's taking the 3rd Nexus even. This army of Gerald is never really going to be competitive, because the Immortal's nice and all, but now you can blink onto it, and then you just continue to trade out. You kite away, you get a Zealot in the process. For Drogo, these are all just trades which are so affordable because you're way ahead in workers.
Well, Prism's going to come out over here so Gerald can try and do some pickup micro and actually use that shield battery. I would love if he just found an opportunity to try and move that fight close to the shield battery and then could overcharge it or something.
I think it's out of range.
Try and help out.
That's not out of range. I thought it must be like right on the edge of range of the Nexus, though, right?
Yeah.
He's going to try and do exactly that. It will help out, and Drogo says, okay, I'll back away for a moment. But again, Drogo doesn't necessarily mind backing away because he's happy. He's going up to 3 bases. He's trading and fighting while expanding. Again, that should just explain how good a position he's in here.
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult position for Gerald to try and dethrone PtitDrogo from. These Stalkers, I mean, if they ever find an opportunity to even snipe off the War Prison or something, I think that might actually just be game deciding at this point. Another Mortal's on its way out, but Drogo just has an overwhelming number right now. He's taking out all these Stalkers. As good as the War Prism micro has been from Gerald, down goes the Prism, down go the Stalkers. And even with that 1 Immortal out, I feel like down is going to go Gerald's chances to come back in this game.
I love it as well. Drogo's even still being very particular about it. He's like, you know what? I'm going to like tag it with one stalker, as GG is called. I'm going to stack it with one stalker, and then as I tag it with one, then I'll blink for it. I don't mind that it's only the immortal there. Playing very cute until the end. Micro and single stalkers back. Drogo having some fun at the end of this first map. As he closes it out, we get ourselves ready to go into a second game with Gerald trailing. Not quite finding any upset potential just yet here.
But I want to say, like we were talking about this, Gerald looked like he was in a really solid position in the earlier stage of that game because he had the tech. He was doing a move out at a seemingly really, really nice time. Just, I think, two things that went wrong. One of them was losing the Warp Prism, and the second one was actually losing the Immortal in that push. It felt like those two things. Or sorry, not the not losing the Immortal, losing a bunch of probes to the Adepts, the Adept harassment, and losing the Warp Prism. Those two things felt like it just completely snowballed in the other direction. But Gerald was doing great up until that point.
Yeah, it actually felt very promising for him, right? Coming across the map, an Immortal, the Prism. You know, the force fields were really good for him, and they actually had Drogo really kind of running and a little bit scared, I think, about how things were going to go. But yeah, so much went wrong in that fight. He even actually lost one Oracle right away. If that one Oracle survives a little bit longer until the fight properly starts, those probes start dying a lot faster, because you talked about the other Oracle, which was then killing probes. Then you maybe even get enough damage to stay in it, even though you lose probes across the map. But it was the combination of everything. The Oracle, the Prism, the Adepts across the map, then the Immortal was stranded, couldn't really do much on its own. Yeah, just a rough one, because it's definitely winnable for Gerald, just couldn't quite find it.
Okay, well, we're getting ready to move into game number 2. Like you said, it's going to be Eternal Empire, the more standard map that everyone considers in the map pool. Although, I feel like that last game kind of was what you oftentimes see from a lot of PvPs. Both players going for some of those proxies. You see a lot of that early game aggression exchanges. And then finally an opportunity where maybe someone is able to establish an expansion. Game starts progressing on, but there's usually a lead in one way or another.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was, right? It's, you know, aggro versus aggro. It definitely creates some weirder circumstances. But hey, it worked out in the end. For our red Protoss in the top right of Eternal Empire, this is PtitDrogo.
And over on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have our blue Protoss player trailing 0-1. It is Gerald.
Honestly, I like the idea of what Gerald had to do there. I do feel overall the 3 gates that Drogo set up for is better than what Gerald had. Obviously, if he doesn't lose that pylon, right, what does he really have at home to defend? You know, a build-in robo when stalkers show up, then there's those extra stalkers, and you just don't do anything with the Oracle across the map. Then you've got to decide, you know, can I even build a second Oracle? He was able to build a second Oracle because he shut down the pylon that he, you know, Drogo would have otherwise warped in from. That was a key moment in that game as well, because Gerald kind of saved himself from a little bit of a build order disadvantage early.
Yeah, I think he absolutely did a great job with something like that. We have, of course, the probes starting to move out as they throw down their second gateways. And it looks like so far, Gerald is just keeping his probe a little bit closer to home. Maybe going for like the quasi-fake proxy where you hide a pylon out somewhere in the middle of the map. It's not even very far out. And the probe doesn't even bother sticking around to try and plant anything down.
That's what both these pylons are, basically.
You know what would be the next level meta? So you know how when you go for the proxy pylon, you still end up getting another pylon back at home pretty quickly, regardless? If you don't get that extra second pylon back at home pretty quickly, you proxy one pylon that's like kind of easily scouted, but on your side of the map, and it looks like the fake proxy. And then you proxy again with another pylon. So your third pylon's the proxy. That's the next level meta.
Have you tried this in your PvPs?
No,
because you don't get
I ladder.
You have a forge already, right?
Well, that also, but even when I don't make the forge, I also ladder with the clan tag mass DTs, so they pretty much know what I'm proxying anyways.
Interesting. At that point, why proxy it?
Actually, I don't. I don't want my Dark Shrine to be that vulnerable. I don't proxy it.
I value my Dark Shrine.
I need to research Blink from it, man.
That's why I cannon rush to open, because I can build like 4 cannons around my Dark Shrine, make sure it never goes down.
You know, the saddest thing in the world is that Dark Shrine is a terrible follow-up to a cannon rush. It pains me every single time, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work out.
Someday you'll find the way to combo them, PtitDrogo. I believe.
That's okay. For now, I'm okay with the bait and switch, but we do have a Twilight Council coming out over here for Gerald, so he's going to be switching things up from that Stargate proxy from the last game. Gerald almost finds the proxy pylon of Drogo that's trying to hide off in the corner. Doesn't quite, though. Might find it on the retreat back or something later on.
Very cool that both players will just expand pretty quickly here. Hallucinated Phoenix and Drogo is going to move in and will fly through. You can see the forge dropping down. So, yeah, that's some really good info for Drogo right off the start, right? Just says, okay, I see exactly what's up. He actually had his sentries just out a bit earlier, and that's why the Twilight Council is much faster here from Gerald, because he went for 2 Stalkers and then Twilight and then extra sentries, whereas Drogo went 3 Stalkers, 3 sentries, which basically means you don't stop building off the gate units. And you can see the impact that has, right? He has a bit better scouting, so he knows what's up, but then he's behind on Blink and he'll be behind on +1. But arguably a little bit more knowledgeable, a couple extra units on the map, might be able to take advantage of that and create that advantage, or take that kind of, work that into his favor to retake an advantage.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you go for like the multiple stalker, multiple sentry opening a little bit faster and kind of delay your tech a bit, sometimes you can also make some nice little bits of aggression happen with like a lot of force fields, kind of like what we saw in the last game. But usually I feel like that's against like robo openings and stuff, or maybe even Stargate openings if you manage to push back the oracles. I feel like this game, see your opponent's going for Twilight Council, you usually don't want to do those kind of super early push outs because you want to get a blink yourself. So. Yeah,
no, for sure. Just going to be Blink on Blink here is always very fun to watch. I actually think Blink Stalker Micro is one of the most fun things in StarCraft 2 at times, that and Marine splits. So when you get like Blink Stalkers versus Blink Stalkers, yes, it looks ridiculous, but it's so fun to watch, and it's definitely one of my fun. The thing is, if I like roll random in free for all or something, if we're playing some games or like team games, I love playing Blink because I feel like it feels so fun trying to micro the Stalkers.
It just feels like you have such a ridiculous skill ceiling on what's possible with Blink. I think it makes it very fun. And I've got to say, like, I know a lot of people really like talking about Marine splits and stuff as being the big micro thing. I totally get it. Marine splits are super fun to watch. For me, my favorite micro thing is just Blink Stalker versus Blink Stalker. I think it's so much fun to watch.
Well, I'm going to get a little bit of it here. A few different ways to play off Blink as well, right? You can go charge and just kind of into like charge lot Archon, which is very kind of standard with Immortals, of course. Some people nowadays, more recently, have gone into that Robo Bay, and we've seen more disruptors and kind of tennis matches happening in PvP too. So that could be what we perhaps have from Drogo. He actually starts to charge pretty quick though, so we can observe out the Robo Bay.
Wow, nice trades over there from Gerald. Not only does he trigger the Guardian Shield really quickly over there from Drogo, but he blinks back, keeps one of his Stalkers alive, and then snipes off a Stalker for Drogo. It's also worth noting that Gerald went not super hard, but a little bit harder on the gateway production. He going up to 4 gateways a little bit faster. So I was going to say, if he wanted to continue reinforcing, if he had like his proxy pylon out on the map or something, or had a Warp Prism already out, he could have maybe continued some aggression. But yeah, just going to poke around and kind of play it safe.
Yeah, it's obviously it comes at a cost, right? Getting those extra gateways earlier, but you're on a slightly later third base, and so this could be, you can kind of blink back over the wall, I guess. It's not super bad. Drogo is very skeptical about the position, so he doesn't blink onto it right away. He does get 1 Stalker in the end, though, and he actually continues to cross. I tell you what, Drogo has quite the army supply advantage right now, PtitDrogo. This is kind of risen from nowhere off of less gateways.
Yeah, I mean, they both only lost 1 probe and 1 Stalker this game. It really is, just like you said, about the extra gateways that are now just finished up over there, and Drogo actually warping in with them. I think Gerald skipped a lot of his warp in production lines just to try and get out some additional tech, and now we're starting to see this gets a little bit dicey. Pylon and one of the gateways is going to go down. Force fields lock in a few units, and I want to note, it's not just Stalkers over there. Drogo can't just blink back all the Stalkers. There's actually sentries over here on the front lines as well. And those are going to get picked off.
That was not the fight Drogo's really looking for, but it does kind of pull Gerald one way. Now he's going to try to go the other. Obviously, it'd be nice to get into the natural, because on the third base, that's where shield batteries, and there's a cannon, right? And those are great defensive structures to help out with this. Because we will see this fight starting up. Definitely kind of battery overcharge territory. He will use it as the shield battery drains away. I love the couple of zealots that Drogo's already got here, though, because they will force a lot of damage to be tanked. Gerald is so close to +2 attack. If that finishes during this, that might just swing things on top of his defender's advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the shield battery overcharge is doing a lot, but Wardy, this concave for Drogo has been doing so much for him. There's so many units from Gerald that are actually not participating in these fights, and they're just stalkers sitting on the back lines trying to waltz forward after their shields have finally been depleted. But now I feel like Drogo is starting to make some progress. The shield batteries are out of energy. The cannon is getting taken out over here. The Zealot's also absorbing a lot of attacks, like you said before. But with the reinforcements coming in over here from Gerald, it does seem like he's taking that stalker advantage as Drogo is falling further and further behind.
Yeah, the concave was great, but the problem is as you move forward, then your opponent gets the concave, right? You move into that choke point, and you're moving into a cannon, and +2 finish for Gerald. And that combination has just swung that army supply massively into Gerald's favor, and Drogo knows he's in trouble, hence the Dark Shrine, and hence his way of saying, right, I need something to pull me back into this game, because I'm not set up right now to play straight up any longer.
Yeah, and right now there is only one observer out for Gerald. He is going to be going for disruptors, which can technically kill DTs even if you don't have detection, with some good, well-placed shots. And it also means he's going to have a second robo, so the availability to get observers up pretty quickly is going to be there. But you want to note, you know, that cannon that was over about the third base, it's not just to try and help defend against general things. It also can be helpful for dealing with Dark Templar. And I love the fact that Gerald got 2 cannons and 2 shield batteries up over there, because that is going to make it a lot harder for, say, 3-4 DTs just right-click down the cannon, start killing probes.
Drogo's really going for all the get me back in this game Hail Mary plays, right? Dark Templar, setting up for the disruptors. Thing is, Gerald's obviously just doing the same thing, just a little bit of a different order. He goes disruptors initially, then he's going to go Dark Shrine behind it. Drogo does have +3 attack on the way, so I'll be a slight attack upgrade advantage, and I don't mind it so much for Drogo. Feels like he is getting into a position that can pull him back into this a little bit, but this double expansion from Gerald, I mean, if both of those end up finishing, well, yeah, it's not just Drogo suddenly being behind one base, it's going to be behind 2. One of those having a rich Vespian Geyser, and that's obviously some big, big differences.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of my favorite and least favorite things about Blink Stalker Disruptor PvP is that I feel as though it comes to a point where to be behind in Blink Stalker Disruptor PvP in terms of like you're down a few stalkers or you're down a base or something, it always feels like you still have a shot. And that's really nice when you're behind, and it feels really frustrating when you're the one ahead, because you just feel like, well, if they get one really good disruptor, if I'm just out of position ever so slightly, I'm in a tough spot. I really love that point forward, trapping the DT.
Yeah, this low ground base goes down, which is nice. You get rid of the rich Vespian option at least. And Drogo kind of finding a few stalkers in interesting spots. Obviously, disruptors here. No, blinking at the last second.
Oh!
Now the disruptors are a little bit left alone, so it will be Gerald hunting them down. He gets 2 kills. And now the disruptor count on the map, 6 versus 2.
Man, I really liked the idea there from Drogo. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because, you know, once the disruptors fire their shot, they're kind of dead weight for a little bit. But he had a really nice idea. He fired off 1 disruptor shot and thought that Gerald would blink forward onto the disruptor. So he sent out his second disruptor shot and left it nearby, anticipating the blink. But Gerald didn't take the bait.
No, he didn't. And now it becomes more of a miracle needed from Drogo. Though this is interesting because now we're kind of in a base trade setup. And I wonder if Gerald embraces the base trade or if he turns back home, because obviously the Drogo gets the kind of the heads up on this base trade. A few DTs warping in, but guess what? There is protection here for Drogo.
Oh, man. Yeah, and the disruptors are going to be able to kill off a lot of that. On the other side of the map, Gerald is heading on in. Let's take a look. There are some, I believe, a disruptor coming on out on the top left-hand side of that army. It is going to get zoned out by Gerald. Gerald!
Oh, he gets it. Nice. I mean, that was necessary. He was heading towards all of his disruptors. This is obviously prime time for perhaps, you know, basically messing up against disruptors, right? Oh, he targets the wrong one initially, so a couple of shots do fire. Well, again, I mean, Drogo's doing the right thing to maybe force this into something that can work. Gerald's going to recall a weird amount of stalkers home. I actually don't know if that's enough stalkers. Oh, Drogo recalls, but then he leaves a disruptor behind and a few stalkers as well. These recalls have been a bit haphazardous.
Yeah, and I mean,
oh no.
That's going to be a bit painful for Drogo as well. He's losing a lot of units here. I was going to say, I guess theoretically, Drogo has killed off 2 bases and still has 3 bases alive himself, but I mean, the worker counts aren't really going to back that up a whole lot. They're both really going to be only on 2 base saturation right now. And Drogo's still behind a lot of army supply. He's getting some nice disruptor snipes. He just used his blink and it ends up eating a big disruptor shot on his stalkers.
Drogo trying to rebuild his robos, right? And that's one of the big issues here. He can't build any more disruptors while Gerald's still cranking out 2 at a time, double expanding once again, has money in the bank to spare. And this, I mean, now Drogo's losing some probes as well, and just feels like every little thing is going the way of Gerald, looking to tie the series up, send it to map 3 for the first time today. If he can just avoid that one disruptor and get a couple shots of his own off.
But I think this is the thing, is that Gerald, he's already just retaking the expansions he lost, and all he has to do is kind of poke forward and put a little pressure on. As long as he doesn't overcommit or anything, I think it's totally fine, right? He's got 4 bases that are going to be coming up, and like you said, he is making 2 disruptors at a time. Drogo is going to be making 1 disruptor at a time, especially after he loses this robo.
Yeah, I mean, that just takes that away a little bit. Blink forward here from Drogo as he kind of catches part of this army, but the disruptors are going to force it to run. I mean, in the end, just pretty good fight for Drogo, right? He gets a lot of stalkers. Gerald doesn't do much apart from, I mean, killing the robo is massive, right? Yeah. But he isn't going to trade much of the army. So for Drogo, he's more like, well, that was something at least. But again, for Gerald, you can trade badly like that because of the position you're in. He's far enough ahead to be like, okay, I can trade out units for a robo because it's going to take away his comeback potential.
Oh, Drogo just moved out with a bunch of his army on the left-hand side. A bunch of stalkers moved out, so that means that he's kind of off on his own for a bit. He also loses the disruptor versus disruptor war, and now there is a nice flank coming in. It does kind of naturally spread out your units versus disruptor shots, but I feel like there are so many left over. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird fight, right? As Drogo, I mean, Gerald should just not chase this army, because if he chases the army on the right side, eventually Drogo is forced to fight, right? As he takes that disruptor shot too. Yeah, if you go to the right, you're forced to fight as Drogo because you're just going to lose your 3rd base if you don't. So I would have preferred Gerald to go that way. It works out in the end. There's not really many wrong decisions here, right? Because he's just so far ahead. He's going to get the disruptor kill with this, and now he has potential to blink on all the other disruptors. That will do it, and Gerald will indeed take it to a 1-1 scoreline, tying us up, setting us up for game 3 for the first time today, PtitDrogo. I know we're both excited to go into that, so we will go to that just after the break. Welcoming you back as we get ready for our game 3 of Drogo versus Gerald. The countdown is starting, the game is loading. And PtitDrogo, how are you feeling about Gerald right now? You like the way that game played out?
I really like a lot of the ways that Gerald has been playing, not only that game, but also the first game. Outside of, again, the two major things that went wrong in that first game. I do think that Gerald has what it takes to defeat Drogo here in game 3. But Drogo, I also feel like, has been making a lot of smart decisions. Like that last game, yes, Drogo was behind for a really long time in it. But I feel like he was making a lot of cool decisions to try and bring himself back.
No, it's definitely been a really good effort from him. And I like what Drogo did there to try and make it happen. He's at Red Protoss on the top right-hand side of Ice and Chrome, PtitDrogo.
And his opponent down in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Protoss player. It is Gerald. Or did you ever play Sonic Adventure?
I did not, but I thought the sound sounds like right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were in the background as a host when Zombie Girl and I were talking about it.
You. Okay, I didn't mean to creep you out that much.
Wait, no, I didn't hear what you said.
I said I was listening to you back then.
Yeah.
I was trying to be all creepy, but then you genuinely seemed creeped out. Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Because you know what, Wardy, I listen because I feel like because you are the commentator in the scene that casts roughly 19 hours a day on average, I feel like you're kind of a part of my life. You almost feel like a roommate to me, because if I just have you on the TV all the time that you're live, I think I actually see you more than I would see most of my significant others. I kind of feel like I'm in a relationship with you. I feel like a lot of the StarCraft community is in a relationship with you, Wardy.
I mean, I just feel as long as there's boundaries to that relationship, that's okay.
Well, if there weren't, you wouldn't know about it. Because
no, I guess not.
Yeah.
Too much for me to keep up.
You can't see when I lick your cheek on my TV screen.
You know what I loved about Gerald in that last game for your Dragon?
What did you love, Forty?
I love that it's twice in a row that he's been able to set himself up into a reasonably good position. And when the game doesn't kind of like go his way initially, obviously not so much in the last game, but in the first game initially, the game was not really set up great for him, but he made it playable until some certain things happened. And I feel like that's got to fill you with confidence that you've been able to open well twice going into this game 3.
No, I completely agree. It really does make me pretty hopeful. I was talking about this before in our kind of pregame desk segment, but I think Gerald's PvP is really, really on point. And I don't just mean in the ambiguous, like, oh, a lot of the European players have gotten really good at PvP, especially those up-and-comers. Specifically, like when I look at Gerald's ladder history, I think he has a ridiculous win rate against a lot of pretty solid Protoss players on the ladder. Like his PvP win rate is pretty damn good. So I'm pretty hopeful about this, actually. I think Drogo is still, in my mind, a little bit of a favorite, even though Gerald has been setting himself up in like better positions. I think closing it out is still a really difficult thing to do in PvP sometimes.
Yeah, and that gives you, it means that slight advantages don't mean as much as they might in other matchups, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I can get behind that. I do feel like this is a bit of a better setup. They're both expanding quickly. This time, the Twilight comes down at a similar time, but Gerald doesn't go for any sentries, so you'll be playing pretty blind. And that's obviously a pretty big difference as Drogo gets straight in again. He watched up right away. He actually flew over the pylon on the bottom, so he goes to kill that. And that's 100 minerals Gerald will have to reinvest in too early. He is going to have his Nexus finishing, so he won't be supply blocked off this, but it is definitely an annoyance. And again, money you didn't really want to have to spend there just yet. And the big difference just is, right, all the upgrades are going to line up at pretty much the same time from Drogo, while still having had the Sentry Heavy opener for information.
All right, Gerald actually slightly mistimes that Adept Shades, so ends up getting caught a bit earlier before he can actually hop in, start trying to pick off some probes in the after. Oh, let's the Adept Shade finish. It's only 2 sentries here, so you know what? Oh my god, I think they got force fielded out of the force field lock.
Yeah, that's a little bit interesting, wasn't it? So you see the Stalkers will chase for the cleanup. One gets into the middle, and that's bad. right? I mean, there's a couple of extra kills, but it's rallied onto a probe that was too far away and the others blocked.
I think it's
hey, this is actually still annoying, man. This is 6 workers?
No.
Yeah, I mean, maybe could have been 7, but yeah, 6 workers. That's huge. And Drogo is kind of like, wow, okay, well, that's not how this was meant to go. He's going to make the decision to go charge instead of blink, which I don't think is how he wanted to start this. But now, maybe feels like he just needs to do something a little weird to bring himself back in the economy.
Yeah, and I mean, remember, it wasn't just the 6 workers. It was also the sentry, which Drogo now just had to remake right now. So he's back up to 2 sentries. But that also means that any additional tech that he wants to throw out and stuff does get delayed a little bit more. So not a great spot. And we do have another 2 adepts trying to shade on forward, but they snipe off even more of these probes. Now, remember, this is the ultimate kind of weird part about PvP or just Protoss in general. And when you go for a lot of these adept shades, you are sacrificing a bit of your army, but you're getting a lot of economic damage done.
Yeah, nice for Drogo to get a couple kills there. He's actually 3 workers down as he does build up in the corner. Those extra gateways. You know, when that charge was on the way, you've got to expect something crazy, right? And this is it. It's just going to be a lot of gateways. Proxy them so they don't get scouted as easily by hallucination. Because again, if you scout right now, you don't really see much as Gerald. You see a couple stalkers and sentries, like, okay, you know, maybe stalkers are on the map or something. But there's nothing else to really tell you. If you see all those gates, it's a bit of a giveaway. And that 3rd Nexus, I do kind of believe, is that bit of a fake out, right? If Gerald scouts, he's like, oh, cool, I get a 3rd base. And then Drogo's going to be like, and I'm going to come and kill you because of it.
Yeah. Oh, boy. We'll see if Gerald ends up taking the bait over here. He isn't going to send that Phoenix any further in, really, also. So he's just going to be lacking a bit more information. I guess he's going to be able to get into the main base. He sees full saturation on both those bases. Only sees 3 stalkers warping on in the main base as well. And there goes the shade. This is going to be a really, really tough spot for Gerald once that first warp in starts happening. Right now, Gerald is up in stalkers, though. It is important to note that there is still a little window where he has more army.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be, though. The
Warp Prism?
Ooh, Warp Prism catch would be nice. Obviously, having Blink as Gerald is really nice for you here. As you go across the map as Drogo, he now starts Blink. Don't tell me charge was a mistake, because he hasn't made a single zealot still. Oh, now he'll wolf in a few. But yeah, without... this is so weird.
Yeah, Guardian Shield's going to help out a lot in this fight, but eventually Guardian Shield does get taken out. And I mean, Gerald has Blink, so he's going to get so much more value out of each individual stalker over here. As Zealots are absorbing some damage, but even the Warp Prism is helping out with some additional blinks. And you're starting to see that Drogo just getting completely overpowered. Warp Prism gets sniped off. GG, a really one